Hi, this is Heidi from Patina, and I wanted to do a quick video today to help those who are doing Kumihimo and wanting to add focal beads as you are braiding. Right here you'll see the 3 beads that I'm going to go ahead and be adding here in the video to show you. I'll go ahead and flip this over and show you what I have been doing. You'll see that the 3 beads here are added, and then again I've got these 3 beads here. I had actually worked this braid from the middle out. I had actually tied a knot and I had braided this section. It's kind of wrapped up here in the bottom. And then I'd untied that knot, added these 3 beads. Now I'm going the opposite way. And I'm ready to add my next 3 focal beads. Now I want you to look at our point of braiding here, and because I'm working with gemstone chips in particular, you'll notice that my point of braiding has some spaces, pretty good spaces in here. And whether I'm working with seed beads or chips, I actually like to do about 8 turns of our elements before adding beads. And I like to do that to tighten up the point of braiding. And you'll notice the difference here after I do those 8 moves. So that was 4, 5 and 6, and 7 and 8. And I'm just going to pull here to tighten up. Alright, now you'll see that my point of braiding here in the center looks much more tight. So I can focus on that. And the reason I do that is because as I'm adding these beads, that's less chance that these beads under here are going to loosen up if I give any slack of my elements. And so I'm going to show you how I go about adding a bead. And I like to do it this way because when I do it this way, I don't lose the placement of my elements. Sometimes people might think that you take all of your elements off the disc, thread it through your bead, and then put those elements back on your disc. You certainly can do it that way. I prefer to do it this way because then I know that my elements are exactly in the same place that they were before I added those beads. So I'm going to go ahead and start here with my round gemstone disc. And the holes in these are approximately 2.5 millimeters. And so I shouldn't have too much of a problem getting all 8 elements through this bead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a group of 2. And I'm just going to go ahead and thread those 2 through. And I'm going to snug this up kind of close to my disc. Make sure I have 2 elements here and slide this down. I don't want to slide it down to the point of my braiding though. What I want to do is leave it right there on my disc. And you'll notice I have good tension here, so this bead is not going to slide around. And you can do this 1 at a time or 2 at a time with your elements. What I'm going to do here is take the 2 elements over here on this side and go ahead and string them through my bead here. And actually with these guys it helps if you do it 1 at a time. I'm just going to go ahead and make sure I do this first guy, this one first, and string them through 1 at a time. And I'm going to pop this guy out, pull a little bit snug, and you'll see that bead kind of moves a little bit down, but I'm going to hold it in place and tuck my element back into the slot, pull out my next cord, string it through, and go like that. And I'm not going to come down to these bottom 2 elements first. I'm actually going to come over and put these through the bead first because that's going to make sure that it kind of holds up here at the top. And make sure that those are snug. And I'm going to pull this element up, hold tight here and string it through. And then back down into the slot over here. And do this next one. And you'll notice that I'm stringing them through before I pull these elements out of the slot. because if I were to pull that element out of the slot before I strung it through the bead, I was going to create more slack here than I wanted to, and that could transfer down to the braid and loosen up the point of braiding down there, and I don't want that. Alright, ready for my last two elements down here at the bottom. Come over and string them through. Bring this one up and over. You'll see it's a little bit loose in there, but that's okay. You could imagine that this would be a confusing mess if we were to take all the elements off the disc and to string this bead through. And then try to put them back on. Sometimes I like to use tweezers here. Pull that guy up, pop it out, pull tight, and back into the slot. Alright, so I have all of my elements through. I'm going to pull all of these tight, cinch that bead right down in there. And I want that as close as I can get. What I'm doing here is I'm pulling up one at a time on each of these elements to make sure that that bead is nice and snug against my gemstone chips. I'll make sure all that slack is pulled up. Alright, you notice some twist here, don't have to worry about that. And what I would do is I would continue doing that with the rest of my beads. Now you can see if you look underneath, you've got nice snug focal bead in there. Now, for the sake of demonstration here, I'm going to say that I had put this bead on and then I had put another one of these flat ones on to create my bead focal here. Now, if you look at our point of braiding, it would be very difficult to start adding beads to this. And the reason why is because there really isn't enough room underneath here to tuck even an 8/0 seed bead. I'm actually going to untwist these guys real quick. So, we're going to go ahead and pretend that I have added my other two beads and now I am ready to start adding beads again. Again, right away it would be hard to tuck a bead under. So, if you remember, before I added this focal bead, I had done about 8 movements. I'm going to go ahead and do those 8 movements again. And what this is doing is it's going to build on top of that focal bead, and we're going to be creating a space so you can add your next bead. And I think I did about 6 movements there, and you'll notice now I have enough room so where I could go ahead and tuck probably an 8/0 seed bead rather easily in this space underneath here. And because I'm working with gemstone chips, what I would purposely do is I would string a flatter gemstone piece